Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is a round 11 game from the 2016 Tata Steel Chess Tournament, Masters section, between Magnus Carlsen playing on the white end and Yifan. These two played for the first time in last year's Tata Steel Tournament, where Carlsen had the white pieces. He's playing as white again in this one. Let's see how things would play out. e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, the Petrov's defense. We have the Nimzovich attack with knight c3. Don't be misled by the term attack. We have anything but that in this game. Things are pretty uneventful in the opening and middle game. Several piece exchanges soon occur. And yeah, we have an ending in this one soon coming about where it's queen and bishop versus queen and bishop. And shortly thereafter, a king and pawn ending alone. That part of the game is the part that I found interesting. Knight takes, d takes, minor pieces out, getting castled, white goes queenside, black prepares queenside castle, b3, h3, looks to grab some kingside space and complete development. Black goes queenside. If black is going kingside, this is a much different ball game. g4, a5, g5, each side going after the kings, looking to open files against the enemy king. Timing will be a great factor. Not the case here. We're not attacking one another's king. Queenside castle, g4, h6, rules out g5. If g5 is played, this is a favorable exchange for white. The h-pawn has been exchanged for the extremely valuable g-pawn. White now has split pawns. Bishop g2, king b8, white centralizes, so too does black. King b2, a6, and now white prepares to double on the e-file, the only open file, and when that is the case, when there is only one open file, it's not uncommon for both sets of rooks to be exchanged. We soon have both rooks exchanged in this one. Queen e7. This seems a little bit awkward to place the queen opposite the rook, but this is only temporary. The queen's destination is f8, and what she's basically doing, the queen is doing here is getting out of the way of the light square bishop, who had no good moves from at this point here. So queen is getting out of the bishop's way so he can move, and then the rooks can kind of be offset. White doubles, queen f8, knight d4, several exchanges now. Knight takes, bishop takes, bishop takes. How to recapture on d4? Queen takes. You could go with the pawn. You're not going to see a great shift in the evaluation. And this is something I'd like to draw just a little bit of attention to, this capture, because I believe many would just go with the pawn, seeing this as a moment to, this is my moment to undouble my pawns. Let's go for it. Queen takes is a move that I like. I like having these pawns close to the king. With the queen still on the board like this configuration of pawns, and it doesn't show up in this ending, but it's worthwhile to note. It could very well end up in plenty of other endgame situations where you're still working, each side is still working with a queen. This configuration of pawns, the b3, c3, and c2 structure for the white king, is an excellent pocket to combat a possible perpetual check by black. B-pawn stops any checks along the file. The c-pawn is responsible for stopping the diagonal checks, and the c-pawn stops rank checks. Compare this with black and their pawn structure. They don't have that configuration. we could one day, suppose these guys are no longer around on the back rank, we could see the queen bouncing back and forth on h8 and d4 to land a perpetual check to the king. Something worthwhile to note, this is an asset in a queen ending this type of pocket for the white king. It is not the same if this pawn is here, because he requires now the defense of a piece other than the king. Anyhow, it's not something that shows up in this game, this idea of a perpetual check, but it's worthwhile to note. Okay, bishop d7, white grabs some kingside space, rooks are now exchanged, and there hasn't been much going on in this game. It's pretty even. When I bring up the graph, I'll show you it'll be saying that it's ever so slight advantage, but it could just as well be saying 0 for an evaluation. There isn't much to do. These next couple moves are examples of just one-move threats, threatening mate in 1. These one-move threats are just not enough. They're easily addressed. It's when there are two weaknesses, and if white is able to pinpoint both weaknesses in one move, that could be difficult to defend, but these one-move threats are, again, easily addressed. So c6 defends, bishop f1 threatens to take a pawn since the b pawn is pinned. Black gets out of the pin, and just kind of fast-forwarding some, this is really all we have are these one-move threats. Queen attacks the pawn, counterattack against the bishop. The queen is now here to secure these 2 points. What are the only other sensitive points? It's d6. The king will easily cover that. Bishops are now off. And yeah, these are 2 vulnerable points the king can watch over here. The queen has the other 2. c4, king up, check. And soon we have with this one the queens being exchanged right here. And this is the big moment in the game. Extremely important moment for black. Black's on move here, move 45. Up until this point, dead even, just call it. This next move, there's an issue, however. There are 11 legal moves for black here. Only one of them will hold this ending to a draw. I wonder if you can spot it. What would you do in this position as black? If you'd like to, go ahead, spend some time with this one, working it out. Try and find the drawing idea for black in this king and pawn ending. Okay. The drawing idea is a5. This is a must move. This was not played in the game. The move played was h5, and this allows white to win. If I'm to just show the graph here, you'll get an idea of how things played out all the way up until move 45. Again, it'll be showing a slight advantage, but this is nothing nothing significant, I should say. Up until this point, king takes c3, 0.41. This is a draw up until this point. An issue with the next move, h5, clearly. Let's see how things played out after h5. How did white enter? Well, how did white make progress? He entered by way of b4, a5, and he really wants to get to b6. Can he get there? Yes, because he has these tempi in reserve. He can eventually force black into Zugzwang, into a position where he kind of has to concede something. He has to give ground. Black has to give up control of b6. And this is a big deal. If the white king could post up here, he's exerting pressure on both black pawns, and tied in with this b5 break, black has to give up both the a and c pawn. So from here we had h4. King goes back already. If d4 is played, well, white still has another move here. b4, and then the king has to go back. So in the game, black just went back right away. King b6, and now this is the idea. b5 takes, takes again. King c7, and after c3, black resigned. There's nothing to do here. Superior king position. What's soon to happen is the c and b pawn will be exchanged, and then white could simply walk along the fifth rank and pick up all the other black pawns. Suppose king d7, king b6, king c8, c6, takes, and then you get the idea. There might have been one cute finish if things played out. If they took it further, we could have had an interesting ending where after c6, king b8, this is still winning for white. C takes b, still winning. Black king can't move. There's only one legal move with d4. If you take, it's stalemate, but you could actually push and allow black to queen first, but in the end, you're mating with a pawn. This did not happen. Again, after c3, black resigned. So what was the drawing idea? It was a5, but why? Why does a5 draw and nothing else? Draw. Well, what's the trick with this? a5, first off, it stops king b4, but really the deeper idea and the main idea here with a5 is to stop the king from entering on b6. This is what a5 prevents white from doing. You cannot get your king to b6. If you can't get to b6, you're not winning this game. The only other key square, b6 is a key square. It's a potential entry point for the white king. So too is e5. If white ever tries to get to e5, well, that's easily prevented by king e6. And notice that black has two squares that he can continually move to. He can bounce back and forth on e6 and f6. And what is he doing constantly? Watching over the key square e5. After a5, b4, suppose b4. This is the idea by black. Keep the pawn on a5 sitting. h5 takes. If you're not taking the pawn and playing here, you're not making any progress on this side of the board now, and the only key square to watch over is e5, and that's easily guarded. If we take stock of all the squares the black pawns control, b4, c4, e4, d5, the white king can never go here. That's another square, another one. This is the only entry, and again, it's easily guarded. So b5 doesn't do anything. The only thing to test out is this capture. After, let's say, h4, king b4, king c7, a6 is the only try to open up the a5 square. But notice something. After a6, black's reply, I should say, does two things. One, captures a pawn. Okay, we see that. But two, it opens up a new square for the black king. b7. So after a5, there's king b7, and what has transpired here? Well, with this new square opened up, black has, similar to this idea over here, when trying to watch over the e5 square, black has two squares he can move back and forth to, and always be controlling the key square b6, just as he was doing over here when the white king tries to enter the e5 square. The king can continually move. There's endless tempi, an infinite amount of tempi that the king could use, and you're always watching these key squares. And this is really the trick here with this a5 idea. You know, if white is going to enter in this direction, they're going to have to take and then eventually do this a6 push to open up the a5 square. But you open up the a5 square for the king. After b takes a, there's now a new square opened up for the black king. What happened in the game? We got to this point here where there is unfortunately for black not two squares for the king to continually bounce back and forth to watch over b6. That's the big trick here. This a5 idea. Eventually the tempos are all exhausted by black and he has to concede ground. He has to give up the b6 square. He's in Zugzwang. a5 idea eliminates this little trick here. It doesn't allow white to place black in Zugzwang playing this a5 idea. These endgames are tricky. King and pawn endings, there's a lot of calculation needed. You have to be extremely careful with how you use your tempi. And one wrong slip, as we saw in this one, playing h5 instead of a5, and the game was thrown away. Anyhow, I hope you found, well, not the opening or middle game, but this king and pawn ending instructive. And as usual, if you have any comments you'd like to leave in the comment section below, feel free to do that. And I hope you got something out of this video. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.